Devotion is the supreme love for God and depends on nothing else. A mind turned towards God in love demands nothing, not even liberation. That is a mind filled with devotion. Having attained devotion, he cares for nothing, never grieves, never hates, never delights in anything, and he finds no urge or enthusiasm for sense enjoyment. Sage Narada from the Narada Bhakti Sutras.
Yes, I think that's a really beautiful one. When you're completely consumed with devotion, there's no desire for anything. So there's no desire for praise, there's no desire, you just take everything just as it is because you see clearly the lens has been cleared.
The most ancient traveler in the world is love, Swami Rama often told his students. Many follow the path of bhakti yoga, the path of love and devotion, but it is not as easy to follow as most people think. Bhakti yoga is not the path for blind followers. It is not just about chanting and external offerings, he said. Rather, it's having the courage to face ourselves at the deepest levels of our being and offer everything we are to the divine, both good and the bad, without holding anything back. And it is the complete dedication and surrender of everything we do in our daily lives as acts of worship. Grease your actions with love, Swamiji always said. Whether you are driving your children to school, washing the dishes, working on a stressful job, or doing your practice. By learning to expand our devotional awareness, we can transform our lives so they are filled with peace, love, joy, and harmony. The goal of life is to be free of all pains and miseries. To be full of love is the goal of life. Swami Rama.
That last quote came from the lecture last night. We watched Super Conscious Meditation, and that was in there. And as always, Swamiji is very practical with his delivery of what it is we need to do and how we need to be and who we are. Because the Narada, the sutras, the Bhakti sutras are really beautiful and lovely, but Swamiji just expresses everything so succinctly and just matter-of-factly. And that's the quote I just think is really beautiful. And to be full of love, that's what we're trying to do. Because when we're full of love, everything will just be beautiful to us. It's the things everybody's heard me, maybe not Phil, but one of the Swamiji's stories, actually two, they were being basically kicked out of the ashram that they had in Nepal. And up until the time they were leaving, Swamiji was making sure everyone was getting out that needed to get out because it was for political unrest. And he was making sure everyone, all the ashramites were leaving and they were going to be safe. But he was staying back with a few people and still pulling weeds from the gardens, still making sure everything was in pristine and beautiful condition before the people came in that were evicting them, that were kicking them out of the country. And I just think talk about equanimity of mind. It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter that we're being kicked out of this country. It doesn't matter that we've created this incredibly beautiful space for people. Okay, so let's move on. Talk about non-attachment, just really, really beautiful. And then up until the day he was dying, his cancer, his body was just ravaged with cancer, but he was still giving teachings to people. He was still telling people, okay, you need to do this for your practice. You need to do that for your practice. Completely, his body, he had basically gone down to nothing but skin and bones. And they were giving him all kinds of pills. He would just take it, whatever people gave him. But he never lost his mental acuity. Nothing ever changed mentally for him. And if anyone's ever been around anyone who has cancer and who's had drugs, you see what happens mentally with them. They are in and out. I know watching my brother die last year, and he decided the week before he died that he didn't want any of the drugs that were, because he was just so mentally out of it. And he knew he was dying at that point and he wanted to be more present. But Swamiji was taking everything, cocktails of things. And never once did he lose his mental awareness. And never once did he go, oh, why did I get cancer? As a matter of fact, he took cancers from students. I personally know people that, I know one man, Shankar, who had stage 4 testicular cancer, actually. And Swamiji said, go when you go to the doctor, it's going to be fine. Went to the doctor, everything was done. It was just, the doctor was like, wait, what happened? I know a couple of people personally that had breast cancer that was removed. And at that point, Swamiji was just taking our sicknesses, because this is what they say, when a saint will gladly take the pain and suffering from others. If we think about that, that's love. That's complete love. Would you want to take the pain of someone that was suffering? Even someone that you claim that was loving, that you loved. Would you really want to take all of their pain and suffering from them? Let alone people that, you're not even that connected to. But Swamiji was connected to everyone because his heart was so completely open. He saw God within all of us, so it was no different. He could see the soul within me, the same as he could see the soul within Kaylee. So that he was just that expansive. But okay, so anyway, the quotes there just really, in that one, just to be full of love last night from the lecture. There were a lot of things actually from the lecture. We are getting a new sticker that it says, learn to love all, exclude none, and that is the way to the divine. Is that exactly what it was? Peace, peace, peace. Yep. So that'll be our new sticker for our mugs and stuff. Okay, so why did Valmiki and Tulasidasa write the Ramayana? So what we're going to do is, before we get into each chapter and break down the chapters and talk about the chapters or whatever, I want us to have a better understanding of what Bhakti Yoga is. And I think that will help us as we move forward. And if you've purchased a book of the Ramayana, I would suggest you start reading it. It doesn't matter if you finish it before, start reading it again. It's completely fine. So they gave it, so Valmiki was the first one. We're just going to say Ramayana because Valmiki and Tulsidas are the same. So we'll just say Ramayana instead of the lake of the doings of Rama, the Ramacharita Manasa. So they did this because inside the Ramayana is everything that we need to cross over this mire of delusion that we live in. Everything that we need to move forward. Everything inside of the Ramayana, it's not just an epic. It's not just a poem. It's not just a story. It gives us the tools of everything we need so that we can become full of love. It teaches, they knew that during the Kali Yuga, which is where we are, during the Kali Yuga, the best and easiest way to know God within, to become full of love, to relieve yourself from all pain and miseries, is Bhakti Yoga. But like Swamiji says in the quote, it's not so easy. It's not being at a kirtan and you see people swaying and dancing and hugging each other and telling each other they love them and stuff. That's emotionalism. Because are you going to have that same love and that want to hug them if, you come out and they've hit your car? Or you walk by and they trip you, it's an accident, or they knock out something from your hand, are you still going to have that same love? Probably not. At that point, it might shift. You might be a little angry and agitated. If you are really a bhakti yogi, it wouldn't affect you. It would nothing like that would affect you. So when we do the kirtans, it's not about creating emotionalism. It's about feeling that devotion inside of us and wanting that to explain. It's about clearing some of our trash from within us so that our soul light can shine a little brighter. So they gave it to us. What an incredible gift. So if we read it, let's try not to read the Ramayana as just a story. Let's read it. And part of the reason why we're doing this today is these are some things as we go through them. I want you to contemplate doing them as we study the Ramayana, just to see what happens. We don't know how long we're going to be studying this, however long it takes. But maybe pick one or all of them, or, scatter them, whatever, but see what happens to you in the study of the Ramayana. See if you get more from it than just a story. Because I think a lot of us in here have at least read it once. So let's see this time, for those of us that have read it once or more, let's see what happens when we go through this time. If there's a little bit more awareness, because the whole purpose of this is that the Ramayana can take us to the goal. If we look at it, if we examine it, if we think about it, if we contemplate it, if we implement the practices that come through there, and then we can be full of love. There's a story of Akbar and Birbal, who is, Akbar was one of the Mughal emperors, and Birbal was one of his he just loved him. He was an advisor, and he really respected and loved him. And so they were having this conversation, and Akbar said, "So what is it, Birbal? You have your God, you have all these saints and all these sages, but yet your God has to come back and take a human form to help his devotees. What's up with that?" And Birbal said, "You know what? I'll explain it to you, but give me a couple days." And so he's like, okay. So he had arranged, they were going across the river in the boat, and Akbar was with the emperor was with his grandson and the saints, or not the saints, but his advisors and ministers of the court. And it was a cold day that day. And then he had arranged for the grandson to fall out of the boat. And when the grandson did, Akbar just immediately jumped in and grabbed his grandson. And then when he got back in, Birbal said, "So why would you do that? You have all these, these ministers and these advisors around here that can help you do that. So why was it so important for you to jump in and save your grandson?" And he said, this is what God does. When he sees a devotee who is in the lake of delusion, right? And we're in this mire, but we need his help, her help. He comes in and he gives it to us. God will do that. There's this ascending force and descending force. The ascending force is us doing our work, us reaching up. The descending force is God will reach down and grab us and pull us up. But we have to do our work. So there's a working definition, as we have with all of our Sanskrit words around here, a working definition of Bhakti Yoga. Think of Bhakti Yoga as a ladder. And you have, on the first rung of the ladder, you have where we think there's one God, and it's our God. We think there's one God, and that's the only God. That's the first rung of bhakti yoga, because you're at least thinking about God. You are at least thinking that there's something bigger than you out there. There's something bigger in you, inside of you, that's all part of this. You're thinking about God. Then when you climb up the ladder, the bhakti yoga ladder, when you get to the top, you say, yeah, there certainly is one God, and that God is everywhere I look. And when you are at the top of the bhakti ladder, you have grasped totally and fully what omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence is. It's one thing to say these words, but when you are at the top of that ladder, there's nowhere that you look that you don't see God. There's nothing that is happening that you don't see God. There's no blame. Everything. Then you have the right to say, it's all good. It's perfect. Until then, don't say that. Don't say it's all good. Because if you aren't there, if you aren't at the top, your emotions are going to ride. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel agitated. Why is this happening to that person? Why did this happen to me? Everybody's innocent. This person's innocent. No. There's no person in this world that can claim innocence. It's called karma. And when we get to that place, then everything is all good. Then we are at that place. So, it's a ladder. We're climbing up that ladder. This, in spirituality, we want our umbrella to be big enough for everyone. When you have certain religions, right, you have their umbrella is big enough for those who believe like them. Their umbrella is big enough for, oh, we have the same God and our God's the only God, then you can get under my umbrella. But we here, and especially at TYS, we're not interested in that. We want to make our umbrella big enough for everyone. We've said this before many times in class. I don't care if somebody comes to one of my yoga classes that I'm teaching an asana class and says, oh, that was really hard. That was really, really hard. That's fine. I don't care about that. But I never want anyone to come to a class or come to TYS and not feel loved and accepted. Not feel part of who we are here. That's an ashram. That's so important. So, and that is part of the Bhakti Yoga path. Anyone who comes in is welcome. Anyone who wants to be here is welcome. Anyone, it doesn't matter what happens. We want our umbrella to be big enough for everyone. So now, how can we make the study of the Ramayana more fruitful? So basically, I want us to, I'm going to scroll this up so that way I don't have to keep turning around. These are just some suggestions that I find helpful for me, so I'm sharing them with you. You can, like I said, pick and choose. If none of it feels workable, then, that's fine too. Sit daily and chant. And I would really encourage you to find a chant that really resonates with you. And you don't have to do it loud. That's not the point. You're doing it. One of my favorites that many times I'll sit up in the office and I'll just shut my eyes and I really, door of my heart. Just sit there. It doesn't have to be, you're not showy. Remember what Swamiji said about chanting, right? The wise chant from the heart. The fool chants from the head. And the one who's wanting to make money chants from the belly. Chant from the heart. It doesn't have to be long. Just sit there and just chant. It's a really beautiful feeling, and it frees you a bit. This is an aside. So Riley he had turned a song on the Spotify, on the Google speaker. And I walked into the kitchen and it was playing. I said, well, that's sad. And he was like, he was complimenting like the music part of it. And I said, oh, it's just sad. So then he said, Google, stop playing. But the song, I didn't know any of the lyrics or anything, just the music. I walked in and it was a sad song. It was about this, I don't even remember what it was, but it was. But it's about a breakup. You can. And I said to him, I said, well, that song's just suggesting to us that we be sad. But it doesn't matter if you hear the lyrics or not. Music can suggest something to us. So start thinking about that when you play whatever music you listen to. What is it suggesting to you that you become? Whereas if you chant, door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Open, I want my heart to open so that I can see the inner dweller. That's what it's suggesting. Chant a song, chant one of the chants, the mantras that we do. Sit and do that and really just feel what it feels like and compare that to something else and see what it feels like. Do your own test. You figure it out. Contemplate Swamiji, or one of the many aspects of God, and pick qualities, attributes of them that really resonate with you. Hanuman, from the moment I discovered Hanuman, the fact that he was so service oriented totally resonated with me. There are so many. This is, let's see here. If you're not sure, like how to pick qualities or whatever, you want to read some of that? Oh, you don't have a mic. Oh, that's okay. Anyone else want to read? Oh, Phil wants to read. Okay, so just start reading on there where the Rishi said. So this is from the Devi Mahatmyan.
When the great demon was killed by the Devi, all the gods led Agni, sang the praise of Katyayani, their shining faces filled with the universe with radiant light. O Devi, you who removed the suffering of our devotees, be pleased with us. O Mother of all the world, be gracious. O Queen of the universe, protect the universe. O Devi, you rule everything that moves and everything that is immovable. You alone are the foundation of everything. You stand in the form of the earth. All this universe gets satisfaction from you in the form of water. You have limitless courage. You are the Vishnu Shakti. You are the ultimate power of Maya, the seed source of the universe. By your power, all this universe has been thrown into illusion. O Devi, you become pleased to become the cause of liberation of all creation. All sciences are part of you. The feminine power of all women is from you. By you alone, O great mother, by you alone this world is filled. How can we sing your praise when you are beyond praise? All the sublime words are deficient. O Devi, you are the power which resides in all beings to give them self-realization, to give the bliss of moksha. How then can we find the words to describe your glory? You dwell as an intelligence in every heart to bestow heaven and the ultimate freedom. O Narayani, we bow to you. We bow to you, O Narayani, who is the form of minutes and other divisions of time. Bring about change in all things and ultimately the destruction of the universe. O three-eyed Devi, giver of auspiciousness and prosperity, O Narayani, you are our only refuge. We surrender to you. We bow to you, O Narayani. You are the power of creation, sustentation and destruction eternally. You are the cause of the gunas and also beyond them. You are the supreme path of salvation. You give refuge to the dejected and distressed. You also absorb all that distresses your devotees. O Narayani, we bow to you. You who ride in the heavenly chariot down by swans, when you take the form of Brahmani, you sprinkle water steeped in kusha grass. O Narayani, we bow to you. We bow to you, O Narayani. You who have the form of Maheshvari, when holding your trident, you ride the great bull. You are adorned with the moon and a serpent. O you who are sinless, you take the form of Kalmari, wielding great power in your spear, accompanied by cocks and peacocks. O Narayani, we bow to you. O you who with the form of Vaishnavi hold the great conch, discuss mace and bow. Be pleased with us, O Narayani. We bow to you, O Narayani. When the form of Vahari, you grasp the huge discus and support the earth on your tusks. In the fierce form of Nahashimba, you protect the worlds, killing the demons. O Narayani, we bow to you. As Andre, you hold the thunderbolt, crowned with a diadem, dazzling with your 1,000 eyes. You took Vritra's life. O Narayani, we bow to you who slew the mighty hosts of Daityas. When you become Shivaduti, of terrible appearance and roaring voice, in your form as Chamunda, with the garland of skulls, with your wide mouth and fearsome teeth, you killed the demon Munda. O Narayani, we bow to you. O Narayani, reverence to you. You are nourishment, most modesty, prosperity, wisdom, faith. You are the sweet libation of the sacrificial ladle. You are the great night, the great illusion. We bow to you. We bow to you, O Narayani. You are Saravati, the source of understanding, beautiful, dark-bodied, and intuitive. Be pleased with us. O Queen of all, you reside in every being. You are the power that enlivens every being.
That's good. It was. I'm impressed. Nice reading. That is just something that. So in this book, the rishis, they bow. They're paying reverence. They're homage to Divine Mother. And they talk about what she does and who she is and the form she takes, just to give you an idea of what you can do. So pick a deity that you really resonate with and think of the qualities and think of the attributes and how you can suffuse those into your life, how you can become more like that. Think of Swamiji and just the two stories that I shared earlier about what he did. He wasn't attached. Think of those qualities and attributes and how you can bring those into your life and live a life more like that. It's a great way to have goals and standards for ourselves. And especially think of it in relation to bhakti yoga. We are living in the Kali Yuga. It is said that during the Kali Yuga, it's the hardest and the easiest time to find God. It's the hardest because it's the Kali Yuga and there's so much licentious out there. There's so much hate. There's so much anger. There's so much sensual desires out there. So, which means there's so many distractions. So we get pulled into those distractions. So it's hard. It's hard, but it's also the easiest because God's there. He's just waiting. He's waiting to dive into the lake and pull us out. We just have to be earnest or eager, right? And then choose a relationship with God that feels natural to you. It can make a world of difference. It could be mother and child or child. It can be a father and child. The Christians have that. Jesus, the infant, right? It could be the child, Krishna. Krishna is an infant. It could be the servant. We've got Hanuman as the servant. It could be the best friends. We have Krishna and Arjuna as God as a friend. It could be lovers. There's Sita and Ram. There's Radha and Krishna. There's Vishnu and Shiva and Parvati. It can be you pick one that really resonates with you and foster that relationship. Do you want to see God as a friend? Do you want to see God as a mother, a father, as a child? Do you want to be a servant? Do you want to see God as a master? Pick something that you know that you can foster and that you can nourish and then let it grow. This is be humble and do things that others don't want to do. I always found it very interesting living at ashrams. So if you live in the main building, the first year that you're there, you have two dish shifts, and then after the first year, you have one dish shift. So my first year there, actually, usually they give you like a 30-day grace period. I didn't really get that. I came in and within, I think I got there on like a Friday or something. You moved me. And by Monday, I already had a breakfast that I had to fix. I did breakfast once a week. I had 2 dish shifts. Then you have a household chore because you live there in the household. And then living on the women's wing, you also have, because it's the shared bathrooms and shared showers, so you also have the responsibility of alternating cleaning the bathrooms and the showers. So it was always surprising to me when people would complain about doing a dish shift or complain about their household chore or complain about whatever it was that they had to do. Because do you not like to go into a clean bathroom? So why do you think that you shouldn't clean the bathroom? Do you not like to have clean dishes when you go to eat? So why shouldn't you offer to clean the dishes? It was just a very puzzling thing to me that we live here, we do things together. Why shouldn't we all just do what we need to do to move forward? Be humble, do things, do helpful things. So 5 and 6 kind of go together. Go out of your comfort zone to help others. Don't just do something that feels good to you. Go out of your comfort zone to really help someone. So if that means that maybe you don't get as much sleep because this person needs you to do something, or maybe you have to, cut something that you were planning on doing. Oh, suddenly you can't do that because this person needs you to do something. Go out of your comfort zone. Be self-sacrificing to help someone. And do things that, if you think, well, I would like that, then why wouldn't you do that? And then go out of your way to do those things. It makes this is all part of that bhakti yoga. If you're washing dishes, it's a divine act. If you're chanting the name of God, it's a divine act. If you're making the bed, it's a divine act. If you're cleaning the boys' feet when they come in from outside, it's a divine act. Make everything a divine act, and then there's no, well, why do I have to wash dishes? Why do I have to clean the bathrooms? Why do I have to do this? Everything becomes that you like Swamiji said in the quote, you grease all of your actions with love. Everything with love. And then life really does become beautiful and full of joy. There's the story of it was a monk and he was giving a lecture, and I think it's part of I think it was one of Vivekananda's, one of the Vedanta Society. I can't remember the place, but anyway, he was giving a lecture, and there were guests there, and the toilet was overflowing, and someone came up and he was there, and they said, hey, the toilet's overflowing. So he stopped the lecture and he went and took care of the toilet. And then he came back and he did the lecture, and then the head monk called him in and said, so why did you stop the lecture, to fix the toilet? He said, well, I live here, I eat here, all this stuff. And he said, those are all fine, but God needed you to serve here. So that's why, think about that in that regard. This is where God called you to serve at that point. But how many people would be like, I'm giving the lecture. No, someone else go take care of that, because suddenly, but if this is where God calls you to serve, then serve. So if God calls you to serve cleaning the toilet, if God calls you to serve chanting the name of God, if God calls you to whatever it is, serve. And do it with an act of love. Be grateful that we have arms that work, hands that work, legs that work, a brain and a mind that works, that we can do these things. If God calls you to make an Instagram post, and then, nope. Oh, oops, I've skipped 4. Okay, purify yourself with the yamas and the niyamas. This is, we know the yamas, the niyamas, the truthfulness, nonviolence, purify ourselves with these things. One of the things that Swamiji also talked about in the video last night was, don't allow someone to feed your ego. If you're serving, why should the ego be stroked? The ego likes to be stroked. The soul doesn't need it, but the ego loves to be stroked. Actually, I wrote his quote down, from the video. Don't allow someone to feed your ego. You must not be affected by criticism. If someone says something to you and it is right, work on it, changing it. If it is not, let it go. So if someone says something to you and you're like, yeah, that is pretty accurate, I do that, then work on changing that. If it's not accurate, let it go and move on. But don't be impacted, because if you're going to be impacted by criticism, you're going to be impacted by praise. And both of those are doing something to the ego. Practice forgiveness and compassion for your faults and other faults. That's a big one. And when we ultimately forgive ourselves for something that we've done, or when we forgive another person, we're forgiving ourselves. Because when you can really forgive someone for something that they've done to you, you forgive yourself. Because this goes back to the law of karma and reincarnation. They go hand in hand. They're the opposite sides of the same coin. So nothing in this world can happen that isn't happen based on our karma. Everything is on our merit. Whatever we've done in past lives, doesn't matter if it's 25 lives ago or the last lifetime or a week ago. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. So everything that is happening because of what we've done in this lifetime or previous lifetimes. So when we can forgive the bringer of our karma for whatever it is, we actually forgive ourselves for doing that same act. God's not here to punish us. God's not here to smite us. God's not here to, Swamiji says, I can assure you that, we're not going to be stuck in eternal damnation. We need to let go. We need to move on. We need to forgive. And when we can forgive others, we actually forgive ourselves for doing those same acts. Say prayers before your meals. Find time to eat in silence. Do you ever just, when you're looking at the food, right? Are you like, whoa? Sometimes I'm just blown away by like how colorful it may be, how tasty it is, how it's just like, wow. And I get to eat this. It's yeah. I mean, then when you taste it, it's just so good, and then it's nourishing. I mean, all these things. Just pause and look at that food, and just be so grateful and thankful that this is something that's going into the body to nourish you. It's a beautiful experience. Phil made chia pudding the other day and brought it over. It was so good. It was just a simple. There's nothing like fancy to it, but it was so good, wasn't it? It was just really yummy. We sat around eating chia pudding. So it's another way to, when we have this gratitude for things that happen, for the food that we consume, it's another way to get the bhakti stirred up, get the love, get the devotion stirred up. Spend time looking at nature. This is really, spend time, even if it's just looking at the clouds, looking at one of the things that happened during the Day of Silence it was really fascinating. I had never seen this before. A squirrel was coming down, and he would climb down, and he would grab a bunch of, well, when I first looked out the window, I thought, what is that? I thought he had something big in his mouth, and I thought, well, huh. And then I watched him, and I thought, well, I think that was leaves. And then in my head, I thought, is he rebuilding his nest? So then he came down again, and he was searching around for the right bunch of leaves, and then he would take it up there. It was just really fascinating watching him build the leaves, or rebuild his nest with the leaves there. Spend time, because when we spend time in nature, we start to appreciate nature more. And when we appreciate nature more, we want to take care of nature. We want to be mindful of nature. We want to use less water when we wash dishes. We want to, pick up trash when we see trash. We want to really start taking care of nature. We really start thinking about reduce, reuse, recycle. Because when you're in nature and you're like, whoa, there has to be something more than what I think, than what I know at this point. So when you're in nature, it's one of those things that can really stir some things up. And we do want to start, we start really focusing on reduce, reuse, recycle. When we go to the store, don't take a plastic bag. This is, Riley and I've been at the grocery store before, and we've gone through the line, and the lady was bagging it, and there was a bit, and I said, no, 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 no. And Riley's like, no, we don't use plastic. So we're carrying out all these things, and I could tell he was like, oh, brother. But don't say no to a plastic bag. Take your own bags. If you don't have your own bags, well, okay, so you've inconvenienced yourself, but that's on you. Put them in the cart, take them home, and then unload them. Be mindful. The resources that we have are finite. We act like they're infinite, and that's not the case. And remember, we have karma for everything that we do. The other one of the things that I was thinking about with nature, so my brother, especially towards the end, the last few months of his life, he would send me pictures of incredibly beautiful nature scenes. And one of the things he said is, I can't get out. He couldn't do what, so one of the ways that was appeasing to him was he would just look at these incredibly beautiful pictures of nature. And we've done that on the computer. We're like, wow. At last night, right? It was like, oh, that's beautiful. Because it doesn't, anything that can make you appreciate nature more, do it. Prayers of gratitude. This is be thankful for everything. Don't just be thankful for the perceived good things that come to you. Be thankful for absolutely everything. There's a story of two birds, and they're sitting on a tree. And one bird, it's a fruit tree, and one bird is going from fruit to fruit, and he'll eat one fruit, and it's so sweet and so delicious, and he squeals with this delight that only a bird can squeal with. Make a peacock sound. But he's so delighted when he has this fruit that is just so wonderful and tasty. And then he'll go to another fruit, and it's like, ew, and he's repulsed by it because it's sour or it's bitter or it's pungent, whatever it is. And he keeps going all around the tree, and he keeps doing this. And the other bird is just sitting there, just calmly, just observing, not doing anything, just watching this bird. The bird that is hopping around is us. We're hopping around constantly looking for something that are feeding our desires to make us happy. And we get something that's exciting and we're like, oh, yay, this is great, right? And then the next moment we're like, oh, and we're so sad and we're so angry or we're so agitated. And we're just all this. We're so caught up in the profit and the loss that we're just consumed with that, and we just keep hopping from fruit to fruit to fruit to fruit. We keep hopping around looking for things, these distractions to provide us with happiness. And the bird that's just sitting there, just observing, that's the soul, just watching us. And at some point, we will get tired from hopping here and there, and we'll quit looking for those fruits outside of ourselves. And then that's when we really can dive deep. But as long as if we don't want to ride those waves, as long as we're still looking for that next thing outside of ourselves to make us happy, then guess what follows that? Miserable, pain, suffering. But when we start looking inside of ourselves, that's where the real joy is. That's where the beauty is. Give things away. Just give things away. Why don't practice non-attachment to them? And anything that is supposed to be yours, have the faith that it will come back to you. I have an experience with a ring 2 times. So I go through these periods where, and I don't say when I'm in this period of time, but if anyone asks for something, I just give it away. It doesn't matter what it is. And Kaylee and I and another person Kaylee was driving and we were in the back seat. And I have a Jupiter ring it's a gold ring, and I think probably a lot of you have seen it. But anyway, I had this, and it was in one of those periods, and she asked to see it, and I said, yeah, and I took it off so she could see it. And she's like, this is really pretty. And I said, do you want it? And she said, no, 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 I don't want it. I don't want it. But at that point, I would have just given it to her. And then fast forward to about a year and a half ago or so, the Jupiter ring, I had gave it to Leon he was wanting to wear it. And I said, yeah, go ahead. And then it needed to be resized. So I kept asking him, did you get it resized? Did you get it resized? And then at the end, because he hadn't got it resized, I messaged on the last day that we ever spoke. I messaged and said, if you didn't get the ring resized, if you're not going to wear it, I would like it back. Thinking that, if it's resized or whatever. So he actually had it resized and it was perfectly fit for his finger. But when he gave it back to me, he said, here's the ring, right? And I'm looking at him like, you did have it resized. So you've been lying about not having it resized, because he had said to me, oh yeah, I had it resized, I never would have asked that day for it to come back. And because he had kept saying, no, I never got it resized. I never got it resized. But then when I look at it, like, but you did get it resized. But because of that lie, right, it made me ask for it back. But if he would have said no, then there would have been no problem. Actually, what I had said, I had messaged him earlier and said, yeah, I could have, if you don't have it sized. But then when I saw him that day, I said, never mind, you keep the ring. And that's when he pulled it out and gave it to me and said, here's the ring back. And that's when I realized, it had been resized. But at that point, I'd already turned it loose and said, no, I don't, you keep it. So if it is supposed to be yours, it will be yours. It will 100% be yours. Most of you guys know when I lost pretty much everything in the house, that when Joe came and took everything out of the house, everything that I needed was replaced. Everything that I needed was replaced. It was a nice, Caitlin and I were talking about that the other day. I would not trade anything from any part of that experience, because it really was a point of me getting to practice what I run my mouth about. Can I let go? Can I be non-attached? Can I forgive? All these things. It was all, and everything came back. Everything that I needed came back. So give things away. And have that faith that what you need will come back to you. And when you perceive that you don't have something, that's when we really need to give away. If we think that we don't have anything, we tend to hold. No, these are my chance. And we want to hold on to it. But if you perceive that you don't have something, give it away. It expands you. It expands you in ways that you feel it. It's beautiful. It's just an incredible thing. So yeah, find things and not just things that you don't like anymore. That give things away that you treasure and see what happens. That's Bhakti Yoga. And then reflect on when you have felt God's presence. I like doing this in the evening before I go to sleep. And it's not, I'm not reflecting on when my ego has felt satiated, when my ego has felt stroked. That's very different. But when you have really felt God's presence, that is when we really could, it's a wonderful way to make that love, that devotion grow. Reflect on it. It could be sitting outside and watching nature. I know last night when we were watching the video, there were a few times I felt this really powerful surge. It was like, oh, and that. You can feel that presence. So before you sleep at night, just reflect on the day and when you felt God's presence throughout the day. So like I said, I encourage you to, pick and choose a few of these things that you are interested in and go with it, or let things go. Whatever. It's your practice as we move forward and as we move forward with the study of the Ramayana.